A glutton actually forgot to eat. That was equivalent to the possibility of the sun rising from the west. Ling Han's first thought was that there was definitely something off with the little girl. Something must have happened. She had just eaten a portion of the godly medicine yesterday, and based on her current cultivation level of mere body refining tier, such a nutritious kind of medicine must have been too powerful for her. Ling Han went to the little girl's room. At first, she slept beside Ling Han, but according to Lu Yutong, even if Hunyu was still very small, she was still a girl, so she had cleaned up a room for her. When he entered the room and his eyes swept over it, he instantly got a shock, because there was absolutely no sign of the little girl. Instead of a little girl, there was an egg on the bed. That's right. It was an egg, and it was an extremely big one, too. It was wide enough to fit in a man's arms and about as tall as half the average height of a man. The egg was as white as snow, but there were multiple golden patterns covering the entire egg. Ling Han was dumbstruck with shock. Even if the little girl went through a complete transformation and became a young, beautiful fairy, he would be able to accept the reality after experiencing a slight shock. But a living human being actually transformed into an egg. What could this mean? He did not have any doubt that Hunyu was currently inside this huge egg, because there was no disturbance to the restriction he had set up. Obviously, no one had entered or left the area. Hunyu's origins were extremely strange in the first place. After all, she could increase her cultivation level by consuming large amounts of food, which was a very shocking thing. Thus, though the effects of the godly medicine were unbelievably powerful, it was not impossible for the little girl to refine it, and this was also why Ling Han had not been overly worried the day before. But a hen became a duck, and a little girl became an egg. This was extremely bizarre. Ling Han approached the egg. He began observing it, but could not find any clues from his observation. He stretched out his hand and placed it on the egg. He discovered something very surprising. The egg was emanating high heat, as if it was about to burn up at any moment. That was indeed very possible. He picked up the egg and placed it on the floor to avoid the whole courtyard turning into ashes if it did start burning up. Where did this little girl actually come from? Ling Han was getting more and more curious. In his last life, he had stood at the peak of martial arts and had ventured to a considerable number of ancient historical sites, as well as had a considerable understanding of the various races with special constitutions. Yet, he had never heard of any race that could increase their cultivation level simply through consuming food, and could even transform into an egg. He did not dare to break open the egg to check up on Hunhu either, although he had never seen such a thing, but he could refer to birds and knew that it was necessary for chicks to break open their eggs on their own. If he cracked the egg open, then that would definitely be an impatient move and only cause harm to Hunyu. He had just been reborn not too long ago, yet he had actually encountered so many bizarre events. Thankfully, he had a healthy heart, or he would have already had a heart attack from a series of so many shocks. Forget it. From the looks of it, it's quite peaceful, so the little girl should be fine. Then I'll just let her continue. Incubating. When he said the word incubating, he could not help but show a weird expression on his face. Every morning after waking up, he would go seek Mo Gao out for a discussion on the art of the sword. This had become his daily habit. Because he had been away the last few days, he could not join Mo Gao for a discussion. But now that he was back, he naturally went to Mo Gao's courtyard. The two of them discussed the art of the sword while simultaneously verifying each other's standpoints, so they both improved drastically. In less than 3 days, I should be able to break through. Tomorrow, I will be entering seclusion, Mo Gao announced suddenly. Ling Han was at first stunned. Then he raised his clasped hands in Mo Gao's direction and said, "My congratulations to you, Teacher Mo." This sword maniac was a genius in the first place. However, he had fixed his target too high, placing his aim directly on the sword heart, and thus causing his cultivation to stagnate for these 10+ years. In other words, any other person needed only get 10 marks to advance 1 level, but Mo Gao wanted to get 1,000 marks and directly advance 100 levels. As a result, he was naturally stuck where he had begun. However, after his many discussions with Ling Han, the grand door of sword arts that had only opened a single sliver to Mo Gao was now completely wide open, and he had all of a sudden attained a drastic improvement. As the saying goes, good preparation is the key to success. Thus, he had attained the comprehension he needed to break through in this short period of time. Ling Han did not feel anything was strange about this. When compared with the difficulty of forming Sword Heart, breaking through to Gushing Spring Tier was a piece of cake. This sword maniac had finally found his way, and at least before Spiritual Infant Tier, he would not encounter any bottlenecks in his cultivation. He could completely depend on his comprehension of the concept of Sword Heart and had boundless prospects ahead of him. Ling Han was happy for him as well. He had secretly decided that once this teacher of his had reached Spiritual Pedestal Tier, he would teach him a cultivation technique. Since all the cultivation techniques in Rain Country were at most only level 5, there was no way to peek into the mysteries of Flower Blossom Tier. Otherwise, there would have at least popped up 1 or 2 geniuses in the 8 great clans that managed to break through to Flower Blossom Tier after so many years. Right? He did not know what fateful encounter the Qi clan had come across that allowed them to possess a powerful warrior of Flower Blossom Tier, which secured their place as ruler of this country. Yi, could it be the power of the nation? Ling Han had never been an emperor before, so he was not very familiar with the concept. But when he recalled that in the 9 nations of the Desolate North, only the Imperial clan had a powerful warrior of Flower Blossom Tier to oversee things, then it should be related to being the ruler of a nation. Before this, Ling Han only knew that stimulating the power of the nation could increase one's battle prowess, like Qiangye. He was only the son of a king, and so could only stimulate the power of a single city. But his Son of Heaven Fist technique was still very powerful. If the ruler of a nation used the Son of Heaven Fist technique to stimulate the power of an entire nation, then that would definitely be far more powerful. But could the power of the nation also increase one's cultivation level, allowing one to break through to Flower Blossom Tier and complete the step of casting off one's mortal body? Ling Han shook his head. Whatever. He didn't need to worry about cultivation techniques anyways. After leaving Mo Gao's place, it was already about noon. Ling Han did not want to cook when it was only him, so he went out of the academy and visited a restaurant to have a meal. He had not been in the Imperial City for a very long time. Thus, he would pick a different restaurant every time he ate out to try out which restaurant had the best meals. However, it seemed that he was a natural magnet for trouble. He had just finished placing his order and was waiting to be served when he saw a company of 4 come upstairs. It was mealtime currently, and this restaurant was obviously very popular because there was no empty seat in sight. Thus, the company of 4 stood at the head of the stairs, casting their eyes all over the place, seemingly looking for an empty table. A waiter approached them and seemed to explain something to them. Yet after a short while, he walked over to Ling Han and said, "Honorable customer, could you give up your table?" Ling Han frowned and asked, "Why do I have to give up my table?" Honorable customer, do you not know the 4 of them?" "That's young Master Kong and his friends. They are not to be trifled with. I am asking this for your own good." The waiter looked at Ling Han with a shocked expression, looking like he was very surprised that Ling Han did not know this young Master Kong. "No, and I don't intend to know." Ling Han shook his head. "Serve the dishes quickly. Perhaps after I have dined for about an hour, I'll leave and there will be an empty spot by then." "About an hour?" The waiter gave a bitter smile. If he really had to wait for about an hour, then that young Master Kong would probably have their restaurant torn apart. However, first come, first serve. That was the most basic rule. If the restaurant could not even guarantee this, then who would want to come here to dine in future? He could only force himself to speak with young Master Kong. After another while, that young Master Kong and his friends approached Ling Han. "Poor fool, take this 100 silver coins and get lost," young Master Kong commanded, a disdainful expression on his face.